Welcome, everyone, to our very first episode of what we're calling the Barber's Brief. It's a bi-weekly segment that is going to be focused on bringing the latest news and basically things that have just kind of caught our eye in our industry. But more importantly, it's actually going to provide a platform where we can engage with you, our listeners. Mark, are you excited to be here? I know I am.
I'm pumped. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
This is going to be like hard-hitting.
Hard-hitting news in your face.
Nothing but the facts, man. This is great.
Yeah, honestly, like the segment really is gonna, we'll kick off with just what caught our eye in the news, then we'll move into what we're calling our marketing moment. We'll kind of analyze a little bit of case study. We'll talk about ad of the week, Q&A from our audience, and just kind of what's coming up on our channel.
Yeah, this is going to be fun, V.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
So let me kick off the news. Thing that caught my eye. First thing that I saw in the last week or so, Lululemon and Peloton, the deal that they struck. So they had previously been fighting in court and suing each other, and so they decided they wouldn't do that anymore.
That's nice. Play nice, everyone.
Everyone's going to play nice. And so over the next 5 years, both the companies agreed to work together to sell gear, equipment, and classes. So Lulu's going to give or supply all the apparel to Peloton, all their ambassadors, all the Peloton instructors essentially become ambassadors. And then in return, Peloton's going to be the exclusive digital fitness content provider for Lulu. So I think it's really good. I think it's a smart idea, and it's a really interesting move for them. Oh, yeah. The big one is they're going to kill the mirror. Lululemon's killing the mirror that they just bought for $500 million during the pandemic.
And I thought that thing was fantastic. Like, at least for me, I've never used it before, but I love the idea behind it. I think I'm with you. I think this makes sense for both companies to try to find a way to coexist.
Yeah. What was one that you saw in the news?
Yeah, honestly, like Marketing Week reported that Nike pledges to stay on the offensive when it comes to increasing their focus on demand generation. And this is after, I think it was in July, where they committed to moving away from promotions in search of profitability. So I think this is interesting because it's kind of, again, signaling that, you know what, we're not chasing sales in the traditional sense where we're trying to just offer promos. We're trying to retain that profitability through just maintaining that mental availability, being top of mind, and just, really storytell of why our products are likely superior than others. So I thought that was interesting.
It is. And especially in the context of the inflationary price increases that we've seen, I think that's a smart move because from when we talked to Herman, there's probably going to be a couple of years of high inflation and higher than normal costs. So it makes sense from an offensive point of view to try and do what you can to increase your pricing, your willingness to pay from the customer's perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. What else you got?
In Marketing Week, there was a recent report just later last week from, I think it was LinkedIn that actually did the research, but it was Peter Weinberg and John Lombardo from the B2B Institute that had written the article about the sales and marketing misalignment, which is not new. I mean, I think it was like 2002 or something that people started writing about this and as the war between sales and marketing and HBR, but they measured it. And so what's interesting about this one is that sales and marketing only have about a 16% overlap in who they're targeting.
Okay.
Which is even crazier, though, is that marketing also have a terrible overlap. So like performance and lead, they're not even targeting the same people.
Oh my goodness.
There's some really good questions that got brought up from people I talked to today about this, about how they came up with the data and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know that, and they don't publish that in the report, but still, it's one of those things that's kind of, the Glenn Ross idea of like the leads are weak, no, you're weak.
Yeah.
It's a thing, and it's measurable.
That's incredible, though. That's incredible. I don't even know what to say anymore.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Again, from Marketing Week, looks like it's become our prime source for this segment. But I think this one was kind of timely a little bit, but it also goes back to some of the conversations that we've had on and off, talking about the relationship between a CMO and a CFO. And it turns out that only about 22% of CMOs say that their partnership with a CFO is truly collaborative. And I think it just goes back to, what are we doing, everyone? We're talking about let's find common language, let's extend that olive branch, and it just seems like we aren't able to stay connected with those that give us money. Damn it, they give us money.
Yeah. Well, it's not that different from the sales and marketing thing, too.
Not
I
at
mean,
all.
in every company, there's so much work to be done and just aligning, or to your point, extending an olive branch to somebody in a
Yeah,
different silo because it's so
totally.
easy to stay in your own lane.
I don't know. I just maybe because for us we were able to talk about this consistently with a lot of for a lot of our guests. So I just assumed like this is just common practice, but it seems like it's not there yet.
Yeah. V from Inc. magazine. Do you like Coke?
I mean, I've been known to have a Coke and a gyro from time to time.
Do you like new Coke?
I'm always open to trying new things.
Do you like Coke 3000?
Where are you going with this,
It
man?
is the new Coke, the new Coke.
Okay.
It was created by AI. So what would be a week be in the
Oh, I
news without
remember
AI?
seeing this.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
futuristic flavor of Coke.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and like that they're coming using AI in different ways than we've ever
Yeah.
thought of before, like
Yeah.
copywriting or ad media buying and things like that, and actually trying to create product out of it. I don't know if it'll actually come to be, if it's just a fun thing to do, get some news coverage, but interesting.
Even if it's just a gimmick, like look at this. We're even talking about it. Puts Coke back out there, makes them look very forward thinking. Even if they change the I guess the makeup of their product just ever slightly, I think it's a win all around. I think I love the idea of capitalism is a very you know topic that's high on everyone's mind. It's like
Yeah,
AI, and then saying Y3000, yeah man,
totally.
sign me up, sign me up. On a more serious note now, so in Marketing Dive reported that Microsoft is going to debut a new platform to help retailers launch essentially an ad business.
Oh,
So I know you and I have both heard of a lot of organizations right now. They're investing in not only their first party data, but really trying to understand how they can monetize that for their partners.
hmm,
Here you have Microsoft coming in and providing a platform for retailers, in this
hmm,
case, to really kind of double down on that. I think this is a very exciting, obviously not only for marketers, but even for Microsoft, and really how they continue to evolve their ads platform as well.
hmm.
Unfortunately, for those of us here in Canada, this is obviously just currently available to the US, but I think it's cool.
I wonder, like, it is super interesting, but does
Yeah.
that mean you have to give your data to Microsoft in order for them for you to use your own data as an ad platform? Like they'll interpret it.
That's a good question. I'm not too sure. I wouldn't think so. I
Hmm.
think essentially they're just essentially what's happening is they provide the ad platform for the retail business, and
Oh,
then they can open up that inventory that you essentially create for the platform
oh, I see.
to the partners that you likely want to work with,
Oh, I
unless you
see.
want to open it up to everybody. But I think that's kind of in the crux. But
Interesting.
I'm planning to do a little
Oh,
more deep dive on that and
yeah.
find the original presser that came out from Microsoft. I think it was like in late September, but I
Hmm.
thought it
Cool.
was cool tech.
Yeah, that's super cool tech. Um, Not tech is a jersey that the reported on ESPN. So the Hornets are doing a jersey patch deals with MrBeast. So
What?
yeah,
The
super
YouTube
like
guy?
yeah, he's
That's
got
incredible.
over 350 million subscribers combined between YouTube, TikTok, X, and Instagram.
That's
Like
incredible.
every like any of the kids
The
these days. My
kids?
kids, my kids like watch all this stuff, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not just kids either. He's got a huge audience. So it's really interesting that they've got this co-branding opportunity with him in partnership with his Feastable brand.
Oh, okay. I think
Yeah,
that's like the chocolate bars that I think he has,
yeah.
if I'm not
Well,
mistaken.
I think he's got like burger joints and stuff that he does out of like pop-ups and stuff. Like so,
Yeah.
his thing is, you can access my audience, my Super Bowl sized audience for half the price of an ad, a Super Bowl ad. So
You know what's funny? I
interesting.
remember that. I think that was last year where he made that claims like because I think the typical Super Bowl commercial during that time was like $7 million, and he
Yeah.
said something to the effect that like for half of that you can reach the same audience through my platforms, which
Hmm.
is when you think about the reach this fella has. It's
Totally.
quite crazy. It's quite
Totally.
crazy. Yeah.
Totally.
Awesome. Guess
Yeah.
what's next?
The marketing moment.
A marketing moment. And who's
You
going to
know how
kick
I
us
knew that?
off?
It's because I have the script in
You have
front
the
of me.
script? That's perfect. Well, the marketing moment literally is what it is, where
Yeah.
we take a moment and highlight a case study that we came across that we think that we'd like to essentially pass on to you, our listeners. So,
Yeah.
Mark, you found an interesting one. How about you give us some context, some background?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a whole series of case studies from the FEs, which I believe is an award from, I think it's the IPA combined with WARC, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Anyway, so there's on YouTube 9 of them that were
Hmm.
published 4 years ago, all summarized by Mark Ritson, which is super entertaining if you've ever seen him. So Lidl is a supermarket in the UK. They're literally David fighting Goliath. So I think there's 4 big players in the market, and they
Hmm.
had a 3% market share. They were trying to figure out how to grow. And
Okay.
they had a whole lot of private label products as well. And so there's this negative perception that not only are they cheap, but they're not good because they're private label.
Right.
Yeah. So that was the kind of brief that they gave people, that we have to improve our market share, and we also have to improve our perception scores.
Okay. So those were essentially like the challenges that we're trying to solve.
Yeah. Yeah. So so the strategy that they used to do that was they took uh, like a surprise and delight kind of thing,
Hmm.
like a taste test, blind taste test. So they would
Yeah.
set up these tables and desks and things at fairs and whatnot, and then
Yeah.
record people as they're coming up to try out and sample food.
Hmm.
And then, once they found out what the food was, then they would reveal the bag. And so it would be a Lidl bag or Lidl
Oh,
packaging.
interesting.
Yeah, so they recorded that. They turned a lot of that stuff into TV ads, and then they did an omni-channel approach where it also incorporated, the distinctive assets on print ads, and then packaging, and then store shelves and things like
Right.
that. So that was a big way that they did that. But most importantly, at least in the case study that Mark Ritson was pointing out,
Hmm.
a huge component of not just the creative, but the delivery of that creative was to commit to this creative campaign.
Interesting.
And committing to the creative campaign meant that they needed to increase their excess share of voice, which is a really cool marketing concept that's been discovered and uh, proven out a whole bunch of times.
Hmm.
So what that means is that, generally speaking, when brands invest more in share of voice
Hmm.
than their existing market share, they're going to increase over time their market share. And if
Interesting.
they have an underinvestment, like if their investment in share of voice is
Yeah.
less than their market share, then they're going to shrink.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what they did is, over like a 5-year period, this is not over like this weekend, let's see how this works. Over a 5-year period, year one, I think they went from like 2 or 3% excess share of voice to 6, and then they went up to like
Hmm.
16, and then 19 was the peak, and then they brought it down to like a cruising altitude of, I think it was 12% excess share of voice.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it was a cool campaign, really well weighted, and that
Yeah.
was a really important message to get out of that.
Hmm.
And so the results are really spectacular. They had, over that 5-year period, market share doubled, went from 3 to 6%.
That's amazing.
Econometricians did some math on it, and they attribute $2.7 billion in incremental revenue to the campaign.
Yeah.
And then not only that did they, increase sales and all that kind of stuff, but their perceived quality scores on all products, like, their bakery, their produce, their meat
Hmm.
department, all that went up dramatically. So it was a huge win for them.
You know what I love about this case study that you picked, and I know it would have been about 4 years ago that where this was, maybe making headlines, but if you look at the tactics that they leveraged, it was really rooted in what was available for them in that
Yeah.
time. So you think about like the blind taste test. That's like a page out of the old below the line advertising book. You think about the omni-channel, making sure you're creating that consistent message across all the channels. Like
Yeah.
this isn't groundbreaking stuff, but I think what it shows you, if you're very methodical, very disciplined, and look at it over a strategy over a course of time, you
Hmm.
can be really effective. And $2.7 billion, man. Like you can't shake your finger at that. That's
No.
quite an incredible bump.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an excess share of voice in general is really cool concept that is worth pointing out
That's true.
again. And the commitment, I think, is they just leaned into this concept. Um, and the creative concept. And I think that's a really important thing. And so often we get so bored, right, of our own ads. We're like, oh, let's just switch. And then we don't really invest in it either. And so we're kind of like
Mm,
always one foot in, one foot out, like just in
yeah.
case, you know? So I thought it was really cool. Just that they, went all in on this and it paid off in measuring it in the long term, which is really important.
Well, yeah, and that's the last thing I wanted to highlight. Like it wasn't. I guess they weren't blinded by the idea of being. I'm sure they had to show some sort of lift in the short term,
Yeah.
but they weren't blinded by that alone.
Yeah.
They committed to, like this is a long term play, and I think sometimes the organizations that we've been a part of or we've worked at, we kind of get caught up in like, can we just turn the key right now and make sure that we're
Yeah.
driving that incrementality? When in actuality, you it's hard to do that
Totally.
unless everything's working in your way.
Totally. So we're on to the Q&A section now, V.
Yeah,
Why don't you go first? You had a good one.
yeah. Actually, Troy Dean, founder of Agency Mavericks, asked underneath the post that we had for Shelley Billinghurst, so the
Mm-hmm.
podcast kind of highlighting the importance of branding and recruitment. And he asks, how do you recommend integrating branding efforts into the recruitment process for maximum impact? So, first of all, Troy, thank you for the great question. I think it's awesome. Um, and Mark, I'll put this back. I'll ask you as well, but I'll kick off myself to see what I think you could do. But I think it really starts by really defining your employer brand. Things like
Mm-hmm.
your values, your culture, the benefits, and basically what that offering looks like for employees.
Mm-hmm.
While at the same time, you need to make sure you're working with your marketing team for the overall brand messaging that they're working on, right? So you need to make
Yeah.
sure there's consistency between the two. So in my mind, this naturally just ensures that not only that recruitment efforts are in sync with companies' broader marketing strategy, but more importantly, it's not I don't want to call it a bait and switch, but it's not like I saw something shiny, but it turns out that it isn't.
Yeah.
There's going to be some level of consistency. And then another thing, just more on an executional side, is just making sure that there's consistency across the content. So that's why content strategy is really
Totally.
important. You're thinking about the job descriptions, how are those coming to life? Shelley talked about, you can be really distinctive in those job descriptions, generate excitement about the role.
Yeah.
So I think there's ways like that where functionally you can, but also even the things like career pages. Of course, right now it's just
Totally.
like a list of jobs, but I'm sure there's ways you can reimagine what that looks like and how it makes, I guess, for your organization, how it makes sense for you to bring that to life.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you'd want to add to that?
Yeah, a couple things. And those are all really good points. I think there's sort of let's call it maintenance stuff, like low hanging fruit kind of things that are
Yeah.
just no matter what size the company is that you should always do. So
Yeah.
I think like having a page on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
if you've got a company, that's a
Makes
good
sense.
idea.
That's a good idea.
Because that's where a lot of people find jobs
That's
today,
true.
and so that matters. Glassdoor is a great if you're getting to be a bigger company. Glassdoor is a great
Hmm.
place for candidates to check out a company and look at the reviews. It's like the TripAdvisor, so to speak, of companies. So I think
Right.
that's a really important one because I don't know about you, but I use it all the time.
Yeah. Me too.
And then so that also means someone from HR or the talent acquisition should be taking a look at that to see what people are saying there.
Agreed.
Um, so that's just some really basic maintenance kind of things. But
Hmm.
then as the company gets larger, there's more and more demand for them to do recruitment all the
Sure.
time.
Yep.
And so I think it's really valuable at that point to start thinking about the strategic plan of where you need your organization to grow
Right.
and mapping that out during the annual budgeting process
Yeah. That's a great
so
point.
that you have alignment on where one department believes they're going to have funding for the
Hmm.
future for let's say September in the fall
Yep.
to hire people if all things go well, And then that way, the talent acquisition recruitment team could then start promoting the company to specific candidates. Like let's say you're trying to hire a VP of marketing, let's say.
Yeah,
You can tag and target VPs of marketing in your, based on your criteria, and run ads targeting them going, hey, here's why it's a great place to work. And it doesn't have to be a lot
exactly.
of money, but just trying to get that reach out in advance of needing candidates.
Mhm. No, those are fantastic points. Fantastic. I know you had a conversation with Jeremy Miller,
Yeah.
which was awesome. He's the founder of Sticky Branding. How about you talked about that?
Yeah. So Jeremy, thanks for the call, or first time, long time, first
First
time
time
caller, long
caller,
time
long time
listener.
listener.
No, thanks for the question. He had asked me what will happen in the tissue market now that Kleenex has pulled out of the Canadian market. And
Ooh, we need
so,
a tissue for this one.
yeah. But my first response was I didn't know they were pulling us. So that was something that came out when
Yeah.
we were both on vacation. So Kleenex is leaving the Canadian market. What I
Mhm.
think is going to happen, from my perspective, I think if nothing else were to change,
Yeah.
then using the laws of marketing from How Brands Grow and Aaron Burr's Bass Institute and all that kind of stuff, I would suspect that the biggest company, the second biggest company with the largest market share and the best distribution and the most ad spend, is going to become the first and maintain that position, and it would just work that way all the way down the chain.
Yeah.
If the caveat there would be, if retailers or like grocery store chains that are all getting into private label
Mhm.
all decide to unanimously across the country to take over that shelf space with their own private label stuff,
Mhm.
then I think that changes everything, because they no longer have the physical distribution that they need to grow. And so these individual brands could actually take a giant chunk of the share of the
Right.
market share there. What
You
are
know
your
what?
thoughts?
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this one? I think it also poses and shows the difficulty sometimes it is to catering to us as Canadians when you think about
Totally.
it from a logistics perspective,
Yeah.
right? We're the second largest country in the world. We're not heavily populated. What is it? We're at 33 million. And it's just the sheer size of the country is probably a logistics nightmare, especially when you think about, well, with all the brands that are selling tissues,
Yeah.
how profitable is it for them when they start factoring everything into their supply chain and just getting the products out to every corner of the country?
Totally.
And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing more products eventually start leaving because of that, especially in this economic environment right now where you're seeing everyone's chasing profitability. So if the profits aren't high enough right now in Canada for Kleenex, I'm not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
It's upsetting on the one hand, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Out of the week.
Bum, 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 bum. Out of the week. Out of the week. Out of the week.
You've got all the best jingles, me.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. This is fun.
So yeah, which one did you pick?
I picked the drum. Actually, full transparency, drum does this like every weekly. They kind of highlight their ads, and I like the one they highlighted. I guess would have been last week, but it's IKEA. So everyone has seen IKEA ads where they show a video and then they kind of have like a text overlay over their products and the price, right?
Yeah, just
So
like the
that's
showrooms.
just like the showrooms,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like they're literally in the store and they're taping it. But what's interesting in the spin that they've put on this one, and we'll make sure we'll add the link to the show notes, is they actually have a mother on the couch puking. But it's really, really funny in the way that
It's
they've brought
funny.
that to life because it's showing like the IKEA products aren't like just this pristine thing that you just kind of set up as a showroom. It's like showing it like how people would
Yeah,
maybe use it
garbage
day to
pail,
day.
15.99.
50.99, here's the couch that you're puking all over.
Yeah,
Still,
here's the
whatever.
blanket that's keeping you warm.
Exactly. So I thought it was really well done. Just adding humor to something that, traditionally is very stale.
Yeah, no, that was a really fun ad for sure, and
Yeah.
it's relatable in so many ways.
Totally is. It
Parent with young
totally
kids, you think you can go out big one night and you pay the consequence the next day. As the
Oh man.
kids are
Yeah.
trying to take care of themselves. Color.
I'm sure everyone's gonna laugh when you see it. You're gonna laugh So
Yeah.
we'll find a way to see if we can maybe in the video format actually, do a play over as we kind of add commentary. That could be fun, actually.
Yeah, totally.
All right, getting close to wrapping up here.
Yep.
So what's coming up next week
Well,
on
next
the
week,
channel?
yeah. Oh, next week, hot off the press,
Yeah,
is an interview we did with Roger Martin. He's back
he's
for the third
back.
time, which is
Yes.
awesome. Talking about research he did with Wark and the B2B Institute on promise to the customer. So this is amazing. It's a great interview. It's such an interesting concept and
Hmm.
super helpful for a lot of companies, I think, and leaders within the companies to make marketing simpler
Yeah.
and more effective. It's going to be really good.
I'll be honest, I was kind of a skeptic going in as we were prepping for that for that episode. But honestly, coming out of the conversation with Roger, I think I kind of came around and really realized the nuances and the differences between just like purpose versus promise.
Mm-hmm.
And I know sometimes it's subtle language, but language is important. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to airing that next week. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah. And
That's it.
that's it, V. I'm trying to steal
That's
you
it.
some of your thunder. That's I should get a thunder sound. I don't know how to do thunder sound, but anyway, that was
Maybe
good.
a thunder sound would be great. But hey, look at this. 26 minutes. We're known for these long form content, but guess what? We can do shorter too. 26
Yeah.
minutes. Get some time back in your day.
Yeah, and but just before we go, if you listening have any questions you want to ask us, let us know.
Yeah.
Reach out. We're on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to get a hold of us. I think on
Yeah.
Spotify, at least, there's a way to send questions in there. But literally, just find any way you can to reach out and send us a question, and we'll do our best to answer it.
Yeah.
That's all.
This is great. That's it.
All right.
How do we end this?
Well, I don't know. Until next week.
Until next week.
Adieu.
Go chase profitability. Adieu.
Oh, that's a good call to action.